Hi, welcome to another Sneak Peek Saturday. My name is Jenny, and today we're gonna read a novel. The title is Something Under the New Sun, and the author is Alexandra Kleeman. Show you the title right here. I thought it was really interesting cover art. You can find this in the news section, but I'll remind you of that again in the end. Okay, well, as always, I'm going to read you the flap so you know what the book is going to be about. And then we're going to continue with the first chapter. East Coast novelist Patrick Hamlin has come to Hollywood with simple goals in mind. Overseeing the production of a film adaptation of one of his books, preventing starlet Cassidy Carter's disruptive behavior from derailing set production, and turning this last-ditch effort at career resuscitation into the sort of success that will dazzle his wife and daughter back home. But California is not as he imagined. Drought, wildfire, and corporate corruption are omnipresent, and the company behind a mysterious new brand of synthetic water seems to be at the root of it all. Patrick partners with Cassidy after having been her reluctant chauffeur for weeks, and the two of them investigate the sun-scorched city's darker crevices, where they discover that catastrophe resembles order until the last possible second. In this often witty and all too timely story, Alexandra Kleeman grapples with the corruption of our environment in the age of alternative facts. Something New Under the Sun is a meticulous and deeply felt accounting of our very human anxieties, liabilities, dependencies, and ultimately responsibility to truth. Okay. All right. Here we go. Chapter 1. On the palm-sized screen, it looks curiously real, like something he's already seen. She slouches in the drugstore aisle, clawing the skin on the back of her hands, sunglasses black and gleaming in the halogen daylight. This is the girl, a bored blonde, her head at once too big and too little for her whittled down frame. Smaller than life, shorter than expected, not as pretty, torso adrift within a pair of creased track shorts and an oversized black sweatshirt with Gucci spelled out on front in serifed white letters. Bruisey shadows under her mouth where the light falls badly. The footage has a handheld wobble. From time to time it sinks behind a shelf and you can hear the sound of close breath, the body of the camera holder hovering out of view. She keeps taking a box off the shelf, putting it back, picking it up again against a background of sanitary napkins, pregnancy tests, and adult diapers. She looks aimless, misplaced, like a child rehearsing an adult gesture they've seen but not fully understood. Patrick Hamlin shields his eyes from the California sun and squints down at the miniature face on screen, shrunken behind oversized lenses. He can't help but feel disrespected, seated off to the side of these production kids, half his age but wearing better clothes. Slim-limbed youths who picked him up at the airport and then detoured without asking to this noisy poolside bar nestled in the crotch of an overpriced hipster hotel. The potted palms by the bar all have smiles painted on their trunks and sultry cartoonified eyes made to be photographed and uploaded to the feed. At check-in, boats and red rubber condoms sit gratis, waiting to be snatched up by smooth-armed men and women delighted at the novelty of a cock that resembles a balloon animal. Now he's jet-lagged and dehydrated, headachy from drinking a jumbo gin and tonic in the glaring bright, mouth dry and tasting of stale wool as he leans over to watch their video clips on a scuffed-up smartphone, the armrest digging into his soft belly. Plastic glasses litter the tabletop as the kids slurp from twin Bloody Marys as tall as a toy poodle. "What is this?" Patrick asks as the girl in the video fingers the sealed opening of the little box, her gestures halting but not unsure. "What am I seeing?" "You have to start from the beginning to get the full effect," says one of the kids encouragingly. A Hispanic 20-something in a short-sleeve button-up patterned with small embroidered horseshoes. "Like a horror movie," adds a paler, smooth-faced one holding the phone. His arm drifts towards and away from Patrick randomly, making it difficult to follow the tiny happenings on the tiny screen. "You need those shots of the suburbs and hedges and mailboxes to prep for the massacre that comes later. When the violence is unleashed, the viewer can't comfort themselves by thinking it's a neighborhood fundamentally different from their own. They've already swallowed the pill. Like at the beginning of Scream, where she's making popcorn on the stovetop," says the one in the horseshoe shirt. "Yeah, or in Triumph of the Undead, where they're in a used car lot arguing over the price of a station wagon right before they get devoured," says the arm. "Devoured?" Patrick has no idea what he's supposed to be looking for. The girl on screen is famous, he knows, but he can't imagine why. She has long yellow hair and an overstuffed pout. She could be any teenager at the mall, an expensive mall, riding the escalator up and down in the afternoon stupor, clutching outside shopping bags in both hands that swing slowly in the breeze. In the small, possibly clear picture, her mouth is set in a stiff line, but somehow he senses that she could burst into tears at any moment. She reminds him of his daughter, or is it a combination of his daughter and his wife? On a screen in his mind, he sees their delicate mouths projected side by side, familiar lips that he's wiped with a towel, precisely etched and painfully exact, the pale satiny pink of carnations or cooked shrimp. Back on the East Coast, 3 hours ahead, they must be setting the table for dinner, portioning out scoopfuls of pasta and salad, his 9-year-old daughter frowning in concentration as she folds flimsy paper napkins in half. Lately, whenever he tries to picture their faces, whether smiling or unsmiling, the image won't hold. Involuntarily, he always sees the smooth lines tremble and collapse into twists of emotion, the unbeautiful shapes of someone about to cry. "Skip ahead," says Horseshoe Shirt to the other. "We're losing him." But think about how much of the story we'll lose, the arm argues, if we rush it. The ambient time, boredom, irritation, atmosphere, the texture, the suspense, a long stasis that, like winter blossoming into spring, surprises within. What this sort of footage lacks in plot structure is it gains back in the quiet sorcery of something happening out of nothing. Monotony upended by the eruption of something new. The cinephile in me can't abide. So true. But avoiding loss is impossible in a world that struggles to conjure even the basic sense of presence. Capture itself is a form of loss, all a matter of PPI, Horseshoe replies, and they nod at each other solemnly. The video is dragged ahead an inch or so. On screen, the girl looks furtively toward the checkout corner, then back down. Silently, she slides a finger under the flap, splits open the little box, wiggles her hand into the aperture in the cardstock. She's peering inside now, and as she pushes the contents around with the tip of a slender manicured finger. Now, the shut is tightening, homing in on the box, which seems to be full of tampons. The girl deftly slides 3 of them out and pockets them without looking, staring straight out in front of her like she's searching for someone all the way across the room. "She's stealing tampons?" Patrick asks. "Shh," say the kids. The camera lurches into motion as the cameraman steps out from behind the shelves and speaks. "Hey, Cassidy, what you doing? You gonna take those without paying?" His voice is cheerily unfriendly. Is it that time of the month? You out of money? You're on the rag, Cassidy? Smile into the camera. "Come on, baby." Cassidy looks up, her face soft and innocent and surprised for a moment, mouth slightly parted and revealing the tips of 2 adorably large front teeth. Then the features rearrange. "What the fuck?" growls Cassidy, her grip tightening around the tampon box as it caves in. "You guys stake out the maxi pad aisle now? Do you want to hide in my shower and watch me put it in?" The cameraman giggles humorously. "Come on, Cassidy," says his voice behind the lens. "I don't think your fans would appreciate that kind of language. Give us a Cassie Keen, Kid Detective, salute. Can you do that? The one from the TV show, baby. You're so moody right now. You got cramps?" Cassidy lets out a weird strangled sound. She hurls what's in her hand right at the lens, and a mess of brightly colored cylinders bursts once like big clumsy confetti as the camera whirls down to the drugstore floor and back up again, seeking her face. What it finds looks ferocious. "Press the lead, cunt," Cassidy says, her hand reaching. Or I'm appropriating that fucking phone. So this is all being shot on a camera phone, Patrick thinks, scratching the side of his neck. Where our stinging itch like a bug bite creeps across his hot skin. Incredible resolution. Phones, he thinks, are the one thing in the world that seem always to be getting better. Now that the 2 of them are in motion, the incredible resolution of the camera lens seems less equipped to handle all the physical activity. She's coming toward him with her hands out, claw-like, grabbing things off the shelves and hurling them. Hard at the arms or upper body of man holding the phone, causing the picture to seize and tremble. He tries to keep up the nonchalant chatter, asking, "Is it 'cause 5 moons of Triton was a gigantic money stock that you need to shoplift your feminine devices? Times that tough for Cassie Keen?" But it's clear from the lengthening pause in his trash talk that he's in some degree of pain. As he backs away at an increasing speed, he's running into the sharp metal corners of the shelves, knocking down prim rows of packaged cookies and crackers that fall on the floor with whispering thuds. At the same time, Cassidy Carter has driven him toward the exitless back of the store into the aisle with the household cleaners and is battering him with a value-sized jug of hypoallergenic laundry detergent. She grabs with both hands and swings it like a sledgehammer. A little bracelet on her wrist glitters in the light. She's telling him to give her the phone, but she's saying other things too. Fuck the menstruation industrial complex for making her buy a pack of 24 when all she needs is 1 or 2 to get to the end of her cycle. F America for being a nation-sized landfill run by Lexus rednecks who will never in their lives be able to comprehend the actual spiritual profundity of 5 moons of Triton. F all her fans for buying the magazines with the stolen photos of one of her old Brazilian wax sessions. Her fans are creepy goblins and would chop her into little bits and eat the pieces raw if they could. And they would take a billion photos of it and probably tag her in every single one. By now the phone is on the floor, camera pointed up at Cassidy, who looms over it with a dark expression, her legs long and bronze and extending impossibly up toward the sky. As she unscrews the lid to the detergent and upends it all over the cameraman's occluded body, Patrick can't help but think the female anger has an outlandish quality to it. In a face rigorously conditioned to be beautiful, ugly feelings come as a violation of basic principles, like the monstrously large species of coconut-eating rat he had read about on the internet, discovered on a tropical island when it fell from a tree onto a passing scientist. While she was clubbing the head and back of the cameraman, the lower half of Cassidy's face had been screwed into a position of uncontrolled fury. The lower lip nodded and drawn down to expose her smooth, square teeth. At the same time, the upper half of her face, enveloped by sunglasses, seemed perfectly placid. From the nose up, there was a sort of fragile glamour that you could have fallen in love with on the spot, and it was a truly fantastic nose, actually elegant but wholesome, lightly freckled, the tawdry bridge sleeking down to a delicate chiseled tip. It was a sort of nose that reminded you at first of other noses you had loved in days gone by, but then began by degrees to eclipse those other noses, until all you could remember was this one nose, perfect and organic and whole. If he was honest about it, Patrick had always sensed a disjunction with girlfriends and mothers and even his own 9-year-old daughter. Between the anger they professed to feel and the spectacular utility of that anger to startle and confuse, he had that eerie feeling when watching an angry woman that he himself was being watched from some place deep inside her, watched with the smooth, distant intelligence of a cat. Now as he watches Cassidy shrug off the grasp of the drugstore employees who've banded together to try to restrain her, he wonders if there's a tiny childlike version of this woman pointing and laughing within the calm center of her rage. Suddenly, Cassidy grins. With one smooth movement, she reaches down into her track shorts, pulls out the spent tampon, and slings it at the cameraman's prone body. "Namaste," she shouts as she is led away. "And that," says the arm, pausing the clip, "is Cassidy Carter. I can't believe you didn't know who she was. It's as if we found you on a Micronesian island and we're teaching you like what a flashlight is." She's that famous?" Patrick asked, tilting the last drops of WATR from his drinking glass onto his sweaty, reddening neck. "More. She was a Happy Meal toy. I had 2 when I was growing up. I used to make them karate fight each other." Horseshoe makes rigid motions with his hands. "Okay, she's famous, but she's clearly crazy," says Patrick. "I just don't think any serious film uses an actress who's assaulted someone in public on video over feminine hygiene. How could you guarantee that she'd behave herself? It's too risky." "Crazy is bankable," says the arms, swiveling in his seat until he makes contact with their waitress. He lifts the empty WATR bottle and points to it with a hand shaped like a gun, then holds up 3 fingers. The waitress nods, gives a thumbs up, and rolls her eyes. "So is free PR, like the video you just watched. So is the #1 nose in America. And the former face of Belanix, says Patrick. that acne cream that caused seizures. It made a lot of money though, Horse Show says, humming something that could be the Bellanex jingle. Patrick stares down at the paused image. The girl is frozen, sandwiched between two drugstore employees in red vests who hold her by the elbows. She's looking back toward the camera with a gigantic diamond heart smile. With her right hand, she gives a cheery two-fingered salute, like a Girl Scout, but cuter. I hear you, I see your point, but I'm going to have to veto her, Patrick says with finality. He leans back in his seat and swings his diluted gin to punctuate. Braided strands of plastic in the seatback sequel as he adjusts his mask. There's an uncomfortable silence when the arm speaks. He sounds a couple years older and somberer. Yeah, well, with my regrets, he says, you aren't actually attached to this film with any veto power per se. I hope you had a chance to look over your contract and the duties and responsibilities outline therein. Patrick's head begins to ache a little. He squeezes his eyes open and shut. Even when his eyes are closed, the light seems to find its way in, soaking the eyelid and turning his visual field a fleshy shade of red. There's a nutty feeling in his throat as he weighs the possibility of getting his phone out and looking up his contract right now in front of their bright, inquisitive, twerp eyes. He looks out at the dull turquoise pool, fully engulfed by the looming shadow of the hotel above. Neon green pool floats, shaped like hearts, rotate aimlessly in the blue. The arm explains patiently. Your contract stipulates that in exchange for the rights to your novel, Elsinore Lane, the access to which is bestowed gratis, you will receive one paid production assistant position, budget contingent, which you may bestow at your direction upon the individual of your choice, including yourself if you are your own choice. Horseshow's shirt pats Patrick on the back a few times. You're one of us, man, he says in a friendly way. From his underarm comes the waft of artificial cedar. The arm gives him a tight smile. Don't shoot, he says, lifting his hands up in mock surrender. Messenger. The waitress comes up with a tray carrying 3 bottles of WATR water, but it's WATR. Each one molded into a faceted shape resembling a diamond, indicated its premium quality. California sunlight shimmy through the hard plastic, pale and golden at the same time, casting a pattern of dancing light on the bistro tabletop. Like the bright motto at the bottom of a swimming pool. She places the bottle on the surface in front of them. Slowly, one by one, she opens each bottle and sets the caps together on the far end of the table. She picks up the bottle in front of Patrick and pours it into his drinking glass. She does the same with the other 2 bottles and glasses. The water tumbles in, cold and transparent and odorless. She looks at the 3 of them sitting in silence and walks away towards another table. This is where I'm going to stop for today. It's quite a long first chapter. Yeah, so I think it sounds really intriguing, and if you want to check this out, it's called Something New Under the Sun, and the author is Alexandra Kleeman. This is the spine label. You can find it in our news section, and if you want to make sure that it's really there, you may place a hold on it as well. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and I see you again in 2 weeks.